Right, so what we've got here is the Deadpool maximum effort gaming machine. Now, to be clear, this machine's main purpose is 1080p gaming and everyday computer needs. Its main draw is going to be its aesthetics, and if you are interested in a computer that looks awesome, runs relatively quiet, and does everything that you need at 1080p, this is the machine for you. So what we're looking at here is a build that centers around having a very clean interior that can be displayed for others to see, and is at the same time has a relatively small footprint. So the front of the machine here, you can see, has the Deadpool logo on it, a red and black bezel on it. It's got a brushed aluminum finish with red plastic grills. It's got a grill at the bottom and the top, which allows for cool air to be drawn in. There are two fans on the interior panel, front panel that is. It's kind of hard to see, and I apologize for that, but there is a radiator there with a fan on the other side of it that you can't quite see, and then a fan below it that's also drawing in cool air. So cool air is coming in a two-part series to the front of the case, and then being exhausted through the top there and through the rear. So that is what's providing most of your cooling. Your power supply is actually housed in a separate compartment down here and is pulling in cool air from underneath and exhausting it out the back. So that's how your cooling setup is. You're looking at a 2600 AMD processor right here. You're looking at a MSI gaming motherboard, which we'll get into more details. 16 gigabytes of RAM, and that is, I believe it's Corsair Vengeance. Don't hold me to that. We'll double check that here in a second. And then the other main components are it's running a 1 terabyte solid state drive that's actually behind this panel, well, back there. And then it is also running a 500 watt power supply. It is not modular. I simply have added aftermarket cables, which you can see are very neatly and cleanly run to the back of the case. The case itself has a glass panel on the side. It is not plastic, so it's not going to get those terrible scratches that make it look super cheap. And then I've done some aftermarket cabling in the back here to give it that continued black and red aesthetic that is Deadpool's main colors. So everything runs smoothly, quietly. What you can hear right now is what you would hear in an ambient room. So for the most part, it's pretty quiet. I did throw the MSI Dragon logo on there since we're running an MSI motherboard. So it also followed that red aesthetic. So that is your case. On the top here, you can see the rabbit ears that is used for the Wi-Fi and the top cooling filter, which also has a magnetic mesh cover on it. And the same is true underneath. You can't really see it, but it also has a removable mesh cover to help with taking care of your dust. So that's kind of nice. All right, moving on. So here we have our monitor, which is a curved monitor. It is a 25-inch curved monitor. It is 144 megahertz refresh rate, and it is FreeSync, which means that it works in tandem with our MSI card here. Or I'm sorry, not MSI card, but it's basically an AMD card. So that works in tandem with the monitor to give you a nice smooth refresh rate there without VSync even needing to run. Xbox controller with a cover on it. Right here we have a HyperX mechanical keyboard. And right there we have our, oh, forgive me, it is a Razer mouse. And I'm going to go over the details of these even a little bit more here in a moment. I personally am running an aftermarket DAC and amp to some Hi-Fiman headphones, which are my preferred way of playing and gaming. All right, so let's take a little look here at what all this comes out to. So as far as the actual parts go, we have that HyperX keyboard, which can do different colors on it. Let's see if I can get that a little higher there so you're not getting the glare from the camera. Here is our Wi-Fi card, and this Wi-Fi card is an Asus Wi-Fi PCI Express card, and that is kind of behind our Deadpool there. I know it's kind of small and hard to see, but it's back there behind his bobblehead, and then runs to those two black cables and runs to our rabbit ear configuration, giving us really nice, fast, and consistent Wi-Fi. I am running a mat here. It is a Lecomus RGB mat, which has given us, it's hard to see right now because of the camera with its flash, but this is red RGB lighting all the way around here. There we go. And then for the MSI motherboard, it is an MSI Performance Gaming AMD Ryzen 1st and 2nd Gen AM4 M.2 USB 3 DDR4 Crossfire ATX motherboard, meaning if you wanted to, you could always hardwire your internet and then run a second Sapphire graphics card if you wanted to. It wouldn't even have to be a Sapphire card necessarily. I would recommend always trying to stick with the same cards if you're going to run two cards in Crossfire. This one here is the Sapphire RX 580 8GB DDR5. So you could run another one of those, and you're looking at another probably $250 if you wanted to run a second card and give yourself really boosted gaming performance. Here is the cooling pump I'm using. It's an UpHere high-performance water liquid CPU cooler. I chose this because the price was aggressive, the reviews were positive, and it also fit the aesthetics that we were going for here. So it's the red square here behind the Deadpool mask, and then you've got two tubes running to that radiator in the front there, giving you your water cooling. It's an all-in-one unit, so it does not need to be refilled or anything like that. It is enclosed. The case is a Phanteks Eclipse case with a tempered glass side. And then I am running, let's see here if I can see, Corsair Vengeance is the RAM, and it is 3000 megahertz, so it is a little bit faster than your typical, in a lot of these gaming builds that you see posted. They're usually 2400 or even 1666 is what I've seen. This is 3000 and can easily be overclocked to give you a little faster performance. And it is also, you have to have the drivers installed, which are, of course, already installed on this computer. But you can see that the RAM and everything else all matches the aesthetic of this PC. All right. And then our 1 terabyte solid-state drive, 500 watt power supply, our Ryzen 2600, which is, I believe I have mine clocked in here at, it says 3.9, and it boosts up to, I believe, 4.1, and I've got mine locked in at 4.1. And then our Razer Basilisk gaming mouse. And the one thing I really like about this gaming mouse is whenever I game, I always use the scroll wheel here to help me change weapons or whatever is required for that game. And the Razer Basilisk I like because there's actually a wheel underneath that you can change the resistance to the scroll wheel. It also has this button here. Most of these mice have the two side buttons. This one has an extended button here that you can actually map to whatever it is that you want. And then, as I mentioned before, our RGB gaming mouse. So the monitor itself is an MSI 25-inch, 144 refresh rate, and it has great color, no dead pixels. And I went ahead and added, just for aesthetics, some red carbon fiber to the left and the right, and to the mount here, or to the stand, I apologize, to the stand here. It already came with this red on here. So it just sort of matches everything that we're looking at for this build. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And just to give you an idea, I'm running Far Cry 5. We're at a locked 60 frames per second. And if I go in here to options and video, I've got it running at the 1920 by 1080, 144 refresh rate. Quality is custom. I have high texture low shadows. Shadows don't make a huge difference to me. You could still bump them up to normal or high if you want to, but then ultra for the geometry and vegetation, ultra for environment, high, which is the highest it goes for water and terrain. Volumetric fog I have turned to low simply because it doesn't do a whole lot, but it takes a pretty big toll. HD textures I have turned on. Anti-aliasing I also have turned up as high as it'll go to TAA. And motion blur, again, it's personal preference. I hate motion blur. You can turn it on if you want. It's not going to make a big impact. And then for frame lock, I have it locked right now at 60 frames per second. VSync you don't need turned on because this monitor, again, is going to work in tandem with AMD graphics cards, where it'll be unnecessary for you to turn VSync on because this monitor has FreeSync built in, which works with those AMD graphics cards. Frame rate I've got locked at 60 for right now. View scale I have bumped up to 90 because this is a widescreen monitor, and curved. And then dynamic resolution I have turned off because it runs just where I want it to, and the resolution scale is at a full 1. So, and it runs games like this just fine, 60 frames per second. You have to make a couple tweaks here and there, but for the most part they run fine. And to give you an idea of the temperatures, let's see if I can get this here. So right now I've been running the game for about an hour. Temperature wise, this is for the motherboard here. 38, 44, 46, and 50 degrees Celsius, which is totally, those are good temps. And then your system memory is using 54% for the motherboard. For the actual CPU itself, 50 degrees Celsius is the max. All the numbers I'm reading you are the max here. The mins are over here. And as far as the processor use, it's using on average 75 to 80% of that CPU for the gaming. And then here we've got our Corsair and Corsair, our 2 sticks of DDR4 gaming RAM, and those are running at 45 and 42 degrees Celsius. Not bad. The solid state drive is being used at 80% for loading and for running the game. 33 degrees, so nice and cool. I have another 1 terabyte drive in there. That's just a normal hard drive. And that one's running at 60%. And then finally, our graphics card. 57 degrees Celsius is the max, not too bad at all. And then as far as what it's utilizing, it's using 64% of the memory of that 8 gigs of video memory, and then 100% of the GPU. So this game is taxing on the GPU, and it's using all the GPU, but only 64% of the actual video memory. So it's got 8 gigabytes of video memory. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Just wanted to give you a quick overview of the system and all that it has to offer. And if you have any questions, by all means, just let me know on the sales page or just email me. And it's a great little system, just been built. I'm starting to do these systems for fun. I used to build these kind of things all the time, and I'm going to start up here again. So my next builds are probably going to be Captain America build, an Incredible Hulk build, and a classic Batman build is what I'm thinking for the next few builds. So if you want a custom build, by all means let me know. These here are the Pops Deadpool bobbleheads. So I actually have the sword. You can't really see it here because of the capture on the phone, but the sword is leaning up against the fan mount, which keeps the head bobbling. It's just so quick. It's not really picking it up here on the camera because it's a little fast for the refresh rate to pick up. And then these here are actually made for headphones. This graphic riser holder keeps the graphics card from sagging at all. So I've got that on there. And then I've got the Deadpool logo sticker on the CPU cooler. One on the front there. And then on the mat, I've got one in the upper right-hand corner where it doesn't obstruct your mouse movement. And then on the keyboard here, I went ahead and threw from the movie. Sorry for the glare there. But we've got the Deadpool figure there, and then one more of the emblems put on here where it doesn't obstruct anything as well. So, yep, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Thanks for taking a few minutes to take a look. Appreciate your time and your interest, and you guys have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.